What if the weekly water change you have been grinding through for years was never actually required? For a certain kind of tank, it is not. There is a whole style of aquarium that runs for years on almost nothing, and the reason you have never heard about it is simple. A tank that needs nothing is a customer who buys nothing. 30 years keeping fish, about 15 of them running my own shop, and I will tell you straight, the no water change tank is real, but it is not magic and it is not for every setup. It only works when you build the tank as a little ecosystem instead of a bucket of water with a pump in it. Get the pieces right, and the plants, the substrate, and the cleanup crew do the exact job your water change was doing. Get them wrong and you have a swamp. I am going to give you 13 secrets that make it work. And stay with me to the end, because the last thing I tell you is the one honest catch nobody selling this dream will admit, the single thing that decides whether your no-change tank runs for years or crashes in month 3. Let me say what a water change actually does first, because once you understand that, the whole trick makes sense. When you change water, you are diluting nitrate, the end product of fish waste that builds up over time, and you are topping the tank back up with fresh minerals. That is it. Those are the only 2 jobs. Everything on this list is just a different way to handle those 2 jobs without hauling a bucket. And the tanks that pull it off are not doing anything mystical. They are letting living things do the work. The foundation of the whole thing is the Wallstad method, and it starts with dirt. A thin layer of plain organic potting soil, an inch or so, about the depth of 2 stacked poker chips, capped with an inch of sand or fine gravel to hold it down, turns your tank floor into a garden bed. That soil feeds your plants for years straight through their roots, and heavily fed plants are hungry plants. They pull nitrogen and waste out of the water as fast as the fish put it in. It is named after Diana Wallstad, who wrote the book on the low-tech planted tank, and the approach has been running in people's living rooms for decades. One caution: use plain topsoil, with no added fertilizer, no perlite, none of the moisture control stuff. The fancy potting mixes will leach ammonia and nutrients too fast and crash a new tank. Cheap bagged organic topsoil, the $4 kind, is what you want. I will admit, the first dirted tank I ever set up, years back, I got impatient and used a bag of rich potting mix I had lying around from the garden. Ammonia spiked, the water clouded up green, and I spent 2 weeks doing the exact water changes this whole method is supposed to end, all because I skipped the boring plain soil. Learned that one the hard way. And think about the money side of it too. A bag of topsoil is $4 and feeds the plants for years. The people fighting the same tank with liquid plant fertilizer are spending $15 or $20 a bottle, a few times a year, forever, to do a worse version of what the dirt does once. Once you have got that soil bed, you plant it heavily from day one, and I mean like a jungle. This is the part people skip and then wonder why it does not work. In a low-tech, no-change tank, the plants are the filter. Fast-growing stem plants, the kind with a stalk you can trim and replant, plus floating plants on the surface, eat the exact waste a water change removes. A lightly planted tank with a few sad stems in the corner will never keep up. A tank stuffed so full you can barely see the back glass barely accumulates any nitrate at all, because there is always a plant standing by hungry for it. Buy 3 times more plants than you think you need on day 1. It feels like too much. It is not. You have probably seen the difference without knowing what you were looking at. That neighbor or that guy at the club whose tank is a wall of green and always runs clear, versus the tank with a few plastic plants and an algae problem that never quits. The jungle tank is not lucky. It is outcompeting the algae for food, because plants and algae eat the same nutrients, and the plants are simply winning. Good starter plants for this are the cheap fast growers, hornwort, water sprite, pennywort, the stuff that grows like a weed. Skip the slow, fussy, highlight carpet plants for now. Those want carbon dioxide injection and a lot more babysitting than a no-change tank is about. You have to understock, and understock harder than any stocking rule you have read. The old line is 1 inch of fish per gallon, which is already too much for most tanks. For a no-change tank, think 1 inch of fish per 2 or 3 gallons of water. A 20-gallon tank, which holds roughly enough water to fill a couple of 5-gallon buckets 4 times over, might hold 6 or 8 small fish, not 20. Here is the logic. The less waste going into the water, the less anything has to pull back out. The plants and the cleanup crew can only process so much. Keep the input low and they stay ahead of it forever. Overstock, And no amount of plants saves you, you are right back to changing water. I will be honest, this is the secret people hate most, because everybody wants more fish. But a lightly stocked tank is the whole reason the thing runs itself. Floating plants are the nitrate vacuum almost nobody points you to. Pothos, the common houseplant vine, frogbit, and water lettuce sit on the surface with their roots dangling straight down into the water, and because their leaves are up in the open air where carbon dioxide is unlimited, they grow explosively fast. Fast growth means fast nutrient uptake, and their roots strip nitrogen right out of the water column. A mat of frogbit across the top of a tank can pull down nitrate faster than almost anything you plant in the substrate. The pothos trick is the same nitrate-eating idea I have mentioned before. Roots in the water, leaves in the air, growing like a weed and eating your waste for free. If this is helping, go ahead and subscribe, we have got more of these coming. Instead of changing water, you top off what evaporates. In a sealed-up planted tank, you are not pulling water out, so the only water leaving is what evaporates off the surface as vapor. And vapor leaves the minerals behind. All you do is add fresh dechlorinated water back to the fill line to replace it. Dechlorinated just means treated with a water conditioner, the stuff that neutralizes the chlorine in tap water so it does not kill your bacteria and plants. One capful of a concentrated conditioner treats a lot of water, so a bottle lasts a no-change keeper years. Everything in this video, and the full 101 secret system behind it, is in the Aquarist's Bible. 204 pages covering the tap water that's quietly poisoning your fish, and the $5 fix for it, the nitrogen cycle explained the way nobody at the store ever bothers to, the $3 filter upgrade that doubles what your filter can handle, the overfeeding that causes the deaths nobody admits to, easy plants that actually live, and the cleanup crew that eats each type of algae so you stop buying the wrong one. Plus a quick reference card you can tape inside your stand so you always know the right move when a fish looks off. If you are tired of testing your water, doing everything right, and still losing fish for no reason you can explain, this is the reference you have been waiting for. Link in the description below, QR code on screen. Now, one myth to kill right here. Some folks think topping off with tap forever builds up minerals until the tank turns to concrete. On most water it does not, because the plants and the system consume minerals as fast as the top-off adds them. On very hard water, the high mineral tap you get across a lot of the Southwest, you do want to watch it and top with a little rain or filtered water now and then. On soft water, top off with straight tap and never think about it. And here is the time and money this quietly gives back. A weekly water change on a modest tank is call it 20 minutes in a bucket, week after week, which stacks up to somewhere around 17 hours a year of your Saturdays spent hauling water. A top-off is 30 seconds with a pitcher when the level drops. Over a decade of keeping the same tank, that is the difference between a couple hundred hours of maintenance and almost none, for the same healthy fish. Feed light, and lean on live food where you can. The whole system runs on keeping the input side small, and food is the input. Every flake you drop in becomes waste the plants have to process, and the extra that never gets eaten rots into ammonia. Feed a small pinch your fish clear in under 2 minutes, once a day or even every other day, and skip a day here and there. Better yet, let a colony of live food breed in the tank, things like tiny crustaceans and the microfauna that colonize a mature planted tank. So the fish graze between feedings, and you barely feed at all. The old mentor who taught me this hobby used to say you are not keeping fish, you are keeping water. And nothing proves that faster than watching an underfed jungle tank stay cleaner than an overfed bare one. Let me put a number on it. In a normal tank, overfeeding is behind more nitrate and algae than almost anything else. And in a no-change tank, it is fatal to the whole method, because there is no bucket coming to bail you out. Feed a pinch the size of your thumbnail, watch it disappear in a minute or two, and that is plenty for a lightly stocked tank. Fish in the wild go days without a real meal all the time. A skinny week never killed a healthy fish, but a week of leftover food rotting on the bottom has crashed plenty of tanks. Deep substrate does something most keepers never realize. It quietly destroys nitrate. In a bed deep enough, we are talking 2 to 3 inches, about the height of a stack of 4 quarters. The lower layers run out of oxygen, and in that low oxygen zone, a different kind of bacteria grows, one that takes nitrate and converts it into harmless nitrogen gas that just bubbles out of the tank. That is the exact step a water change fakes, by dumping the nitrate down the drain. A deep bed does it biologically, in the tank, for free. This is real, and it is the same principle behind a deep sand bed. One honest caution: do not go stirring a deep established bed all at once, because those pockets can hold gas, and ripping it all open in one go can release a slug of it. Plant roots and burrowing snails keep it gently turned, which is all it needs. This is one of those tank facts that sounds made up until you sit with it. Your gravel is quietly running a chemistry step that a machine would cost real money to do, converting a pollutant into a gas that just leaves. My wife, who calls the fish room the swamp and has never tested a drop of water in her life, once asked why the deep-planted tanks stay clean when I do nothing to them and the bare quarantine tank needs constant attention. The honest answer is the dirt is doing the work. She did not find that as fascinating as I did. Patience is the real filter, and this is the one you cannot buy. A brand new tank has thin bacteria, small plants, and no established root network, and it cannot carry a no-change load. An old tank, one that has been running and maturing for months, has a deep biofilm on every surface, that thin living slime that is packed with waste processing bacteria, plus a thick root system and a settled ecosystem. That mature tank handles a load a new one would choke on. You do not lean on this system in week 2. You set it up, you cycle it, meaning you let the beneficial bacteria grow in and process a test dose of ammonia before you trust it, and you go slow for the first few months. A tank that took its time is the tank that runs for years untouched. Match your fish and plants to your tap water and you delete the biggest reason people change water at all. So many keepers are fighting their own faucet, trying to soften hard water or harden soft water to keep a fish that never belonged in their tap. That fight is a chemistry treadmill that often ends in water changes to correct a swing they caused. Skip the whole battle. Test your tap once for GH and KH, your general and carbonate hardness, which is just how many minerals are dissolved in your water, and then pick fish and plants that already love those numbers. Look, everything I'm walking through here is in the Aquarist's Bible, 204 pages, all 101 field-tested secrets, water chemistry made simple, the cycle done right, filtration, substrate, feeding, easy plants, algae control, stocking, and the self-cleaning tank that mostly runs itself, plus what to actually do when it goes wrong, with a quick reference card for the stand. 3 decades of fishroom knowledge in one place. No more mystery deaths, no more scrubbing green glass every week, no more fighting your tank and dumping money at the fish store. Link in the description, QR code on screen. Hard water out of the tap. Keep live bearers and hard water species that thrive in it. Soft water. Keep the soft water fish that want it. When your fish are happy in your tap as it comes out of the wall, you have removed the only reason a lot of people ever touch their water in the first place. In the years I ran the store, the customers who fought their water the hardest were always the most miserable. Somebody on rock-hard tap trying to keep soft water fish that hated it, dosing chemicals, chasing the pH, and losing fish anyway. The ones who never had a problem were the folks who walked in, told me what came out of their faucet, and let me point them at fish that already wanted exactly that. In hard water regions like a lot of the Southwest, that means live bearers and similar hard water fish, and they thrive with zero intervention. Work with your water, not against it, and the no-change tank almost builds itself. A tight lid and lower light keep the whole system sealed and steady. A cover cuts evaporation, so you top off less often, and it keeps floating plants from drying out and fish from jumping. Lower light sounds backwards in a planted tank, but hear me out. Blasting a tank with bright light for 10 or 12 hours a day mostly grows algae and forces a demand for carbon dioxide the tank cannot meet. A modest light on a timer for 6 to 7 hours a day, about the length of a work shift, grows your low-tech plants just fine and starves the algae. Less light, less nutrient swing, less algae, less reason to ever intervene. The whole game here is stability, and a sealed, calm, dimly lit tank is a stable one. Skip the aquarium salt and the additives, all of them, and this one matters more in a no-change tank than anywhere else. In a normal tank, whatever you dose gets partly flushed out at the next water change. In a no-change tank, there is no flush. Every bottle you pour in accumulates, forever. That tub of aquarium salt the store swears by. In a no-change system it just builds and builds with nowhere to go, and salt does not evaporate, so topping off only concentrates it further. Same with most of the tonics and clarifiers. The entire model depends on not adding things that pile up. The fix is not a better additive, it is no additive. Let the tank balance itself and keep the bottles on the shelf where they cannot hurt anything. Go big on the water volume and small on the fish, because a large volume is forgiving in a way a small one never is. The more water you have around a small number of fish, the slower any waste concentrates, which gives your plants and bacteria all the time in the world to stay ahead of it. A stray dead fish, or a heavy feeding in a 40-gallon tank with a handful of fish barely moves the numbers. That same mistake in a 5-gallon nano can spike overnight. If your real goal is a tank you never have to change, a bigger tank with fewer fish is playing the game on easy mode, and everything else on this list works better inside it. There is a real safety note that comes with going big though. Water weighs about 8 1/3 pounds a gallon, so a full 40-gallon tank with soil, sand, and rock is comfortably over 400 pounds, sitting on 4 little stand feet, closer to the weight of a couple of grown men standing in one spot. On a slab floor you are fine. Upstairs or against the middle of an old floor, look at what is under it before you fill it. My reef-keeping brother-in-law loves to remind me his saltwater tanks need even more babysitting than mine, and I love to remind him that mine has not had a water change since he set his up last. Let a cleanup crew close the loop on the solid waste, so nothing ever needs to be siphoned out. Snails and shrimp, and the little detritivores that show up in any mature planted tank, eat the fish waste, the dead leaves, and the leftover food, and they break it down into something the plants can then take up as fertilizer. That is the loop closing. The waste does not leave the tank in a bucket. It gets eaten, processed, and fed back to the plants, over and over, inside the glass. One rule I will never stop repeating: if your snails or plants ever overrun the tank and you need to cut the numbers down, never dump the extras in a creek, a pond, or a storm drain. It is illegal in most states, and it is exactly how invasive species wreck a waterway. Give them to a fish club or bin them, but the wild is never an option. And you do not need to buy a fancy cleanup crew for this. A few common snails and a handful of cheap shrimp multiply on their own in a mature planted tank, and the tiny detritivores, the little critters that eat detritus, show up for free on the plants and driftwood you already added. Left alone in a balanced tank, that crew grows to match the amount of waste there is to eat, which means it self-adjusts to your tank without you managing it at all. Now the honest catch I promised, the one thing that decides whether this works or blows up in your face, and no store selling you the dream will say it out loud. Never do a water change again is not the same as never touch the tank again. The no-change tank still needs you to test it once in a while, and it needs the rare full reset when something goes sideways, and it flat out does not work for every tank. This is a low-tech, heavily planted, lightly stocked, patient system, and only that. Try to run a goldfish, which is a waste machine, or a stocked African cichlid tank on this model, and it will fail, because the waste load buries the plants, and the numbers climb no matter how much you planted. The honest version of the promise is this: build the right kind of tank and you replace the weekly bucket with an occasional test and a top-off, which for most people feels like never changing water again. Keep a test kit around. Watch your nitrate every few weeks at first. That pale, weak lemonade orange on the tube meaning low, the deep pumpkin color meaning trouble, and if it ever climbs and stays up, the system is telling you something is off, usually too many fish or too much food. Across the low-tech tanks in my fish room, the ones that run for years untouched are always the boring ones. Heavily planted, barely stocked, barely fed. That is the whole secret the bottle sellers leave out. None of this is a trick in the magic sense. It is just how a balanced tank actually behaves when you stop fighting it. Start with the soil and the plants. Stock it like you are almost afraid to. Feed it like you forgot. And give it months to settle before you trust it. Do that, and the bucket really does go back in the garage for good. The tank that runs itself was never a secret the store was hiding on purpose. There is just nothing in it for anybody to sell you, which is exactly why it is worth knowing.